John Petrani had lived a quiet life in Madison, Wisconsin, where he was a supervisor of custodians for the city government and shared a home with his father, a Hungarian immigrant. He loved jazz music, fine beers, good books, and riding his bicycle, commuting on it the 6 miles to his job in all kinds of weather. But his great passion was getting out into wild country, according to his brother Mark. Every year he spent his 3-week vacation in the wild country of the West, climbing volcanic peaks in Oregon, exploring Alaska, mountain biking in the canyons of Utah. In 1992, he took an auto tour of the Canadian Rockies, visiting Banff, Jasper, and other national parks, camping and hiking. Glacier was the last stop of his itinerary. Had he survived the day hike to Granite Park, he would have turned toward home the next day. In quotes, that's what he worked all year for, Mark Petrani says, his 3-week journey into the woods. Stocky and strong, his 5'11" frame carried almost 200 pounds. Bicycling, jogging, and cross-country skiing kept him in good shape. He was the oldest of 3 sons, and his death was not the first saddest in the family. A brother had died in an accident in 1974, and his mother passed away in 1990. He was a bachelor, childless. The evening after the day he died, a Sunday, a police chaplain came to the home of his father, also named John, and delivered the heartbreaking news. The next day, as Mark and John Sr. were preparing to fly to Montana to retrieve the body, a postcard arrived at Mark's house. It was postmarked from Kalispell, just outside Glacier. In quotes, he said he hadn't seen any bears yet, but had heard they were around. End of quote. Mark says, my wife almost didn't give me the card. It was a hard one to read. John Petrani liked to take pictures, but he wasn't an avid wildlife photographer. Almost all of his photographs were of landscapes. Mark says a statement backed up by the film and John's camera, developed later by rangers. What did I just do there? Almost all the photographs are of landscapes, Mark says. A statement backed up by the film and John's camera, developed later by rangers. The pictures were all of the jagged peaks and cliffs that make Glacier so famous. No bears were on the film. Mark says neither he nor his father blamed the bears for John's death. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, Mark says. It's unfortunate, but he was in their home. You really can't blame the bears. He and his father flew to Montana, where John's remains were cremated, and drove the dead man's car back to Wisconsin. It was, as Mark recalls, a long drive. Back in Glacier, Charlie Logan was getting ready to pull some long shifts himself. As the bad news circulated around the park that Sunday morning, Logan, Frayne, and Wild rose in the ranger cabin to find weather had gone to hell. Plans had called for a helicopter to arrive at first light and carry the body to park headquarters, but fog had cut the visibility to about 100 feet when the sun rose at a little after 7. By 8:30, the temperatures had fallen 10 degrees. The wind had picked up, and the snow was coming down in big round flakes. It wasn't until 11:30 that the weather cleared enough to bring a helicopter into the Alpine Bowl. On the way in, rangers spotted the bears on Petrani's body. The sow had a distinctive marking, a light-colored collar around her neck and descending onto her chest. A light-colored, like a mane. More armed rangers came in on the flight, and Buck Wild rode the helicopter back to park headquarters. His role was over, but the rangers' work had hardly started. It took a couple of hours to get the 6 rangers and helicopter pilot Jim Kruger organized, and a strategy worked out. 5 rangers would walk to Petrani's body. One would fly in the helicopter with Kruger to observe the operation from the air. The ground crew arrived at the site at 2:15 and found Petrani's body had been moved another 75 feet, where the bears had eaten more of it. Pilot Kruger found the bear family, a sow and 2 cubs, still near the body. The bears didn't want to leave and kept trying to get closer, so he started hazing them with a helicopter, trying to keep them away from the body and the ground crew. He'd get her going one way and then she would come back another way, Logan says. All this information was traveling to the ground crew via radio, but it was still hard to pinpoint the bear's exact location. It took only 20 minutes to load the body into the airship, 4 men carrying and 1 standing guard, keeping a close eye on the bushes. But it was a long 20 minutes. Then the ground crew continued documenting all the evidence they could find, working under a constant guard. With the helicopter gone, nobody knew where the bears were. As they backtracked to the site of the backpack and camera and fanned out to search some more, the crew found Petrani's wallet in the woods, a dozen steps from his backpack. The wallet allowed the Rangers to positively identify him and also provide a crucial piece of evidence. It had been torn by bear teeth, gouged deep enough to puncture the plastic credit cards inside it. There were a few traces of blood on the wallet and a little more blood on the nearby tree. That was enough to indicate that Petrani had initially been attacked there and had then moved closer to the trail, where Wild had found the pool of blood. Probably he had rested there, bleeding, and then moved down the trail the way he had come, hoping to find help. Where do you get bit if they bite the wallet? Buck Wild believes Petrani met the bears in a surprise encounter, that the bears were running from the cooking area of the campground. Tracks showed one bear had come within 15 yards of him while he ate breakfast, and that when they ran into Petrani, the mother attacked to defend her cubs. Rangers who had more time to investigate came up with a handful of possible scenarios. Since the pack and camera appeared to have been laid carefully down, and because Petrani's pants and underwear were around his ankles when he was found, they said it was possible that he had placed his things beside the trail and moved into the woods for a bowel movement or to urinate. That's where the bear hit him first. Bummer. Then either she let him go or he escaped and moved back to the trail, where he stopped long enough to leave the pool of blood before moving downhill back toward his car and the only source of help he knew about. Wow. It's also possible that he saw the bears on the trail and set his gear down before running into the woods, where the bears caught up with him. Under this scenario, they may have charged before or after he started running. Excuse me. Maybe he saw the bears and he put his things down, preparing to photograph them, and they attacked. Or he could have heard a noise and moved into the woods, leaving his gear behind to investigate. The bowel movement theory seems likely, but it's not conclusive. The only evidence backing it up is that his pants were down around his ankles, that being dragged by a bear shredded his shirt and pulled a boot off his foot. It could easily have pulled his pants down too. Plus, if he had stepped into the woods to relieve himself, why would he leave his hat in the trail? Unless, of course, he dropped the hat after being attacked and he stumbled back to the trail. Rangers found his glasses and some other items in the woods, indicating considerable movement in a small area. It's clear that the initial assault didn't kill him. The blood spots that Wild followed down the loop trail were round, indicating Petrani probably walked down the trail under his own power. If the bear had dragged him down the trail, the blood would have been smeared. Also, the bear left claw marks on the trail, but no pad marks, indicating the bear was up on its toes, running. Less than 600 feet from the pack and camera, the bear caught Petrani again, causing the thrashing marks in the trail. That's probably where he died. Then it dragged him down the trail a few steps and into the woods where Wild would find him. It's possible that the bear chased Petrani down the trail, but he probably bumped into the bear again there, Logan says. It is those last 600 feet of his brother's travels that bother Mark Petrani the most. Apparently he attempted to get away, Mark says. Maybe that was the wrong thing to do. We'll never know. But that time from the first attack until she finally got him, it must have been sheer terror. Why didn't the bear go away? I've asked myself that question 1,000 times. Rangers asked themselves the same question. A grizzly bear had killed and eaten a man. It was an incredibly rare situation. In the 90-year history of Glacier Park, where thousands upon thousands of people walk through grizzly country every year, Petrani was only the 9th person to be killed by a grizzly bear, and in most of those cases, the bear left the body alone after the attack. During the same period, 48 people drowned in the park. Wow. 23 fell to their deaths from cliffs, and 26 died in car wrecks. Clearly, grizzly bears are only one of the many perils of the park. I'm going to leave it right there. Love you. God bless.